All right, welcome back. Doing something a little bit different. Kind of was trying to shake it up a little bit, and as a self-proclaimed shoe nerd who just loves running and trying lots of different types of shoes, I thought it'd be cool to do a comparison video on some of the newer Nike spikes that have been out. So I was lucky enough to get my hands on a pair of both the Nike Dragonflies as well as a pair of the Air Zoom Victories, and I got a chance to run on them a little bit. Did some workouts, did some time trialing, and kind of thought it'd be cool to share my thoughts on the two different shoes since they're a pretty hot topic in the current track and field universe with everything going on, all the crazy fast times being run. So was really curious to see what the hype is all about. So we're gonna check them out. I feel like I don't need to say this, but of course I paid for these shoes myself. So everything that I'm saying is just all stuff that I got the shoes because I wanted to test them out and use them, and I figured it'd be cool to kind of share my opinion on them, and hopefully it helps you out if you're looking into getting these spikes, or even if you're just kind of curious what they're like. I was lucky enough to find a couple good deals on them, so it worked out for me, and I'm really happy with them. But yeah, so I hope you enjoy the comparison and some of the things, my thoughts on everything. Okay, I remembered one thing, and this is important. So I don't wear spikes. No, wait, I don't wear socks. When I wear my spikes, I do not use socks. Important consideration. So the first thing right off the bat to compare, I think, is the price point of the two different shoes. So of course, these being like Nike's premium spikes that they have out right now, the Dragonflies right now on a lot of sites are running you about $150, which is, pretty up there considering their older spikes like the Victories as well as the Matumbos were usually in that like 120 range. So with some of this new technology, they're starting to up these costs. With the Air Zoom Victory coming in at 180, but if you peruse all these different sites and stuff, a lot of sites are actually sold out. They don't really carry these very much. So you're ending up looking on eBay or different sites, Track Talk, whatever it might be, to try and find them, and a lot of the times they're going for quite a bit more than the retail price of 180. So right off the bat, like if we're going for comparison, of course you're gonna save yourself a little bit of money with the Dragonfly, but I think you're probably more interested in what shoe's gonna work for you, what's gonna be better if you're gonna invest the money into one of these spikes. And I think like some initial thoughts, just based on where I'm gonna go with this, I think the hype is pretty real for these spikes. They do a lot of things really well. So if that's the route you want to go, you want to be confident in what you're purchasing, that it's going to work for you and what you're doing. And hopefully we could give you some guidance. The next thing I wanted to think about was the weight of the two different shoes. So they're coming in right around the same. I know looking online, I think the Dragonflies in a men's size 9 came in at around like 4.6, 4.7 ounces. I have them in a size 10. And the Air Zoom Victories come in around the same. I think it said 4.6, but it was in a smaller size. I think a men's 8.5. So you're probably getting right around that like same weight class for these two different shoes, which I thought was really interesting since the Air Zoom Victory has quite a bit more going on in the shoe, being a mid-distance spike versus the Dragonfly. But you're really not sacrificing too much for either of them weight-wise, which is an important consideration. Everyone's looking to get something different out of the shoe, but that seemed to be a non-factor. So in that avenue, they come in about the same. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the two different uppers. So the Dragonfly, I believe it's called their Nike Fly Mesh is what I was reading. So it's just a really thin mesh upper, and it's got the holes through the top, so you can actually see through here. So it's really thin. I really liked the feel of this Nike, the Fly Mesh, considering my personal favorite upper before this is the Victory 2s and Matumbo 2s that came out. I always really, really liked this upper, which I don't even remember what the name for it is. But after putting on the Dragonflies, I could definitely tell you that this is definitely my favorite upper that I've worn. It's really breathable. The air comes through it really quick. I did some time trials really recently, and it's been pretty hot and humid where I am, so they definitely do the job. And they're comfortable. It's very form-fitting, but it doesn't like irritate any parts of my foot. It's really flexible in the areas where like your toes might be pushing. I do wear my spikes with a tiny bit of space. I know a lot of people wear them. They'll get like a half size down, so that way you're really like taking full advantage of the whole shoe. I give myself just a little bit of space. That might be something to consider. Maybe some other people would have issues just with like, I know they have this like more firm material up in the front, but I personally have had no issues. I never got any blisters or anything like that in any parts of the shoe. So, and in the back, you know, you got that heel counter, but it feels good. The lockdown's good. I'm not really finding that I'm coming out of the shoe. And yeah, I'm a big fan of this upper. And then we have the Air Zoom Victory. The Air Zoom Victory features that Atom Knit upper that you're going to see in the Nike Zoom Alpha Fly. At first glance, I really thought I wouldn't like this upper, just like based on the feel, you know, just touching it with my hands. But once it's on your foot, it conforms to your foot really well. I didn't find it as comfortable as the fly mesh, but I really think they did a nice job with this. I mean, I've never had a chance to run in the Alpha Fly, so this was my first experience with the Atom Knit upper. But it breathes super well. It feels good on your foot, and it definitely it locks down just the same. You know, very similar heel counter wise. They didn't really do any big changes to that. They're both very similar. It's just the different material up top. And the same thing with these. I know just based on other stuff that I was reading, a lot of people were saying to go a half size down. I did go with the same size that I wear. I wear a size 10 in all my Nike spikes, and it just gives me like just a little bit of space up by the toe, which I don't mind. I like it. I feel more comfortable in the shoe, but maybe some other people would run into some different issues with that. But similarly, I didn't get any blisters or anything wearing the shoe, and I was really overall happy. But if I had to give it to one of them, I would definitely say I prefer the Dragonfly upper. It felt a lot better on my foot, but I really don't think you could go wrong either way. I'd be interested to see if like anybody has a preference. So maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, and you like the Atom Knit a little bit better. But that was kind of my conclusion. So then the next thing we'd be getting into the like the midsole, outsole on the two different shoes, which is where you're going to find the really big differences between the Dragonfly line and the Air Zoom Victories. So the Dragonflies feature this really thick ZoomX foam bottom, as it's meant to replace that Mutombo line, which is their longer distance spike. I know, I think these are listed for 1,500 up to 5K or 10K. But you've got that ZoomX thicker outsole, and then it also has the P-Bax plate, just the plastic plate with the six spikes, which I do really like. I really like this plate, and it runs through the full length of the shoe, so you can see there's that. The P-Bax plate runs all the way through to give it a little bit more rigidity, which I imagine this is something they've been using just to help hold up that ZoomX foam, just because I know this is a performance material, so that extra rigidity is just going to kind of help it last a little bit longer, I imagine, and just give the shoe more bounce over a longer period of time. It's not going to be as responsive as a carbon fiber plate, but it certainly does the job. For me, this is where I find that I prefer this shoe, and this is going to be something that I wanted to share, is the difference between these shoes is your foot strike. So I generally am like a mid-foot to slightly heel striker, and this shoe complements my foot strike a lot better. I find that it's just cushioning me a little bit more in the middle, and I feel more stable through my foot strike when I'm running. And it's also a little bit more aggressive than the Mutombos, which is what I used to race in beforehand. So just gives you a little bit more underfoot if you're landing in this area of your foot, and just a little bit, you can kind of see like on the wear pattern, you can see that I'm still getting in here. But that was one of the biggest things that I noticed, and I did use these for everything. I did some repping 200 reps all the way up to mile reps, and then I did a 5K time trial in these. So they really kind of cover all the bases, but yeah, I was really happy with this midsole. The ZoomX is really, really awesome, and I'm sure there's got to be some numbers about it, but you could really feel that like extra energy return. Like it just comes back to you. You don't feel the fatigue as much over a longer amount of time, which is something I also noticed when I ran in the next percents as well. So yeah, big ups. I think this was they really did an awesome job with this midsole. And then we move over to the Air Zoom Victory, where you have a lot more going on, certainly a little bit different. So you've got their big thing, you've got these AirPods, whatever they end up calling them now, which they featured in their Alpha Flies as well. You do still have that ZoomX foam, which they have featured in the Dragonflies. But you also are getting a carbon fiber plate, which it's a little bit hard to see, but you can see it's a little bit visible right here. So I did, similarly, I did workouts in these, and I helped someone pace through a mile, and it was nothing too crazy. They were just trying to get under 5, so it wasn't anything too intense, so I got a good vibe for what they're like. First time I put the shoe on and ran in them, I really noticed these air pucks or pods in the fact that I felt very detached from the track. And that was definitely something weird. I ran in the next percents and I kind of had like a similar sensation just because of the stack height on them. But with this, it's just something where it didn't feel like my foot was the thing moving me forward. I don't know how else to really describe it. But because it's aggressive and really presses you up onto this, it just kind of created an odd sensation. And at my the first time I tried them on and just did some strides in them, it felt a little weird. But then I did a workout as well as that. I helped pace my friend for a mile, and all of a sudden I felt a little bit more comfortable in them. And they are definitely a fast shoe. They push you forward. Like I said, I am more of like a midfoot striker, so I definitely was a little bit more conscious of getting forward. But also, doing the 200s, I was starting to get down to like 29 and things like that, where I'm usually doing a lot of reps at like 32 to 34 just for the races that I'm training for. But they definitely are fast. I felt like I got through that workout, my legs still felt good, and they were giving me a lot back, which was great. Something that I do want to make mention of, and this is interesting, maybe you'll care, maybe you won't. I know I personally don't care that much because whenever I get a shoe, I just want it to perform well. These make a lot of track sound. I'll see if maybe I could clip in something from one of the workouts because I set up the camera pretty close by. But I almost described it as like if you get your flippers wet in the pool, like you're wearing your like flippers for swimming, you get them wet and then you're like walking on the deck with the flippers. You kind of just hear them like making this flapping sound. And you definitely get that, and you notice it quite a bit on turns, which I thought was pretty weird. Like I said, doesn't bother me. If the shoe is working, doing what I want it to, I don't really care what it looks like or how or the weird sounds it's making. But I thought that was interesting. And then similarly, I also just felt a little bit of instability. Like I said, that detached feeling, like when I was getting up here, just feeling a little bit of wobble, especially on the turns in that forefoot. But as I ran it a little bit more, I got more comfortable with it. I think I adjusted a little bit. So it's just something that I personally felt, and one of the reasons that I definitely lean more towards the Dragonflies. But thought it was something interesting to mention. You do still get that same spike configuration, which I thought was interesting because if you look back to like the older Matumbos, you had those 4s, and now on the new, all the Nike spikes now they have this 6 spike configuration. So interesting there for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's fast, but definitely had a couple things that like would push me away from using it. Unless I'm getting at, like, I feel like if I'm dropping down to the 800 though and I have to make a choice, I'm putting this shoe on. But probably miling up for me, I preferred the Dragonfly. And then one other thing that I really liked about boat shoes, and this was cool, it's something that I thought Nike really nailed, these laces that they put on with these like little grooves on them are awesome, because once you tie your shoe, these are very rarely coming out. They help to get the lockdown a lot better. On both shoes, they both feature that grooved lace, which is awesome. And like it was one of those things that every once in a while, like on my other shoes, it would come out, not very frequently, like on my Matumbos or my older Victories, would come out. But with these, I've never had that issue, and I feel that it also helps me to get the top of the shoe to really cinch down on my foot the way I want it to, without any leeway when it's coming up. On the tongue, I actually like the tongue on here better. I don't think there's a difference except for the material, but the Air Zoom Victory tongue, for some reason, just feels better on my foot. I don't know why. I know some people were talking about the Dragonfly tongue bunching up on them a little bit, which I guess like this you get down here, it could happen. I haven't really had too many issues. I guess maybe the material is just a little bit more flimsy, which I could see, like, you know, I guess, I don't know. But just something to think about, or try to like cover all the bases, make mention of all the things. Like, isn't that the point of talking about shoes? Trying to give you my opinion, but also like some unbiased just notes about it. But yeah. And then hopefully one other thing I wanted to make mention of, just because I really was excited to do that, and that was the first one I wanted to get out of the way. I did get my hands on some of the different flats, the super shoes, some of these carbon fiber plated shoes. So I've got some Next Percents that I'm running quite a bit. I've used them for some workouts, for some longer road stuff. I think I did a time trial in them on the roads in the 5K or something. But more recently, I also got my hand on the Endorphin Pro, and I think this is a really exciting thing that I'm looking forward to testing out the shoe. I've barely used it because right now the Endorphin Pro and the Endorphin line second version just came out. So these shoes are actually on sale for like $150 on Running Warehouse. So I'm really excited to try these and let you know what I think, whether it's worth the money, instead of looking at, you know, these crazy Nike shoes like the Alpha Flies where you're looking at $250, $275, or even the Next Percents, which are still running you probably like $225 to $250, depending where you're looking. Is it worth it to grab these for $150 now that they're on sale? So I'm really excited to test these out, and I'm hopefully, once I get a little bit more runs done in them, that'll be the next thing coming up. So thanks for hanging out, and we'll catch you next time.